Hello and welcome to another amazing episode of Flourishing, the podcast where you get to listen to incredible women tell their stories. Today I have a magnificent human being. Whit Stewart is joining me, Madrona Coaching and fabulous Queenager, co-host of the other podcast we have together, As You Are podcast. Whit is your guide to transformation. She helps you reclaim your power using breathwork, somatics, mindfulness, and holistic life coaching. And she is drawing on her incredible decades of living a life and trying different things and living in a family that was very tricky and difficult. She offers deep, nourishing, messy, magical self-reclamation. She is a gorgeous human. I'm getting quite emotional talking about it because I am very honoured and grateful that she is a very good friend. Whit Stewart, welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm so happy to be here. It also feels so normal to do like a podcast episode with you. I have to remind myself of like which podcast I'm doing. But it is
Exactly.
an absolute pleasure, and I'm so happy to be here.
So this podcast is all about flourishing. And I know, Whit, that you have had lots of kind of ups and downs, but if you could pinpoint a couple of flourishing moments in your life.
I mean, I have to say, so I have more and more of them. And I might even say that like these days I have a lot of them. And I mean, for example, Saturday I had a breath session, Lisa, because you were there, and I was glowing like from the inside out for the whole entire day because I am so grateful that I get to do the work that I get to do. I've searched for so long to find work I was passionate about, and that I really cared about, and I through large parts of my life thought, just felt really discouraged, that I felt so misaligned in my life and everything felt so hard for so long. And Saturday and most of yesterday, I was just like, I just was so happy all day long. I was just like, it couldn't get any better. I am the luckiest fucking human on this planet. I get to do the best work with the best people. I adore my family. I love where I live and the place where I live. And I don't need anything else. I don't need anything else. And it is such an incredible joy and gift to be able to be in a place in my life where that is often how I feel. Like that is I have to say, most of the time how I feel. Not all of the time. I also went to children's birthday party yesterday and had, lots of kids' emotions, and everybody was tired and I felt exhausted and there were lots of people around and all this stuff, the human stuff. But I also just get this like joy and happiness that I didn't know was possible truly. Like I had heard about and searched for and wanted so badly for so long. And
I was just about to say to you, it hasn't always been that way, has it?
at all. And so,
What's happened in your life? What are the things that have kind of led you to this incredible flourishing point in your life?
yeah, a lot.
A lot, yeah,
Basically
I know.
lived lots of lives, Lisa. Lots of lives. I've lived in lots of places, lots of different countries. I've had, I mean, a summary, I can summarize some of the difficult things. I grew up in a difficult family, addiction in my family. There's a lot of like problematic, like, difficult mental things in my family. There was suicide and depression and mental health issues in general. And had my own issues with an eating disorder and feeling really, really alone most of my life, being in abusive relationships, emotional and physically abusive relationships in my past, really gravitating toward people who were really wrong for me and yet very familiar. Um, and just feeling like really hopeless for a long, long time, but always feeling absolutely 100% dedicated to changing that and really putting so much of my energy into changing that. I think my
Mm.
focus has changed over time with that, though, because for a long time I felt like I needed to fix something about me. I thought I
Yeah.
was messed up and I felt like, there must be something wrong and I've got to well, I know there's something wrong. I've got to figure it out and I've got to fix
Mm.
myself.
Is there a point where you kind of realize that? Is there a time point that you can say, "Yep, I realized that I'm not actually broken," or was it more a process?
I think it was just more of a process. Like people
Mm.
can tell you that over and over again, and that's what, you know, coaches do. That's what a lot of the like wellness stuff is telling everybody these days, which is an incredibly important message. But you can hear it from everybody
Yeah.
else a million, zillion, cajillion times and not believe
Mm.
it for yourself. And it takes integration and it takes relearning and it takes patience
Mm.
and lots of other things to get there. And I think it's
Are you
different for everybody.
mm. Are you kinder to yourself now
Yeah, I'm very kind to
than you
myself now.
were? Mm.
For the most part. I mean, I can be quite a martyr. So like
Mhm.
I can get into that old behavior still. And I can still I can be very, very obsessive. So I can be quite like wanting to figure something out to fix a problem,
Mhm.
even if I don't believe it's like something that's wrong with me. I can still want to fix it obsessively.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm not so easy on myself. But
Mm.
I'm very kind to myself for the most
Mm.
part.
That's nice. I like that. I think about that a lot, how we talk to ourselves and the things that we do. I've got a question here. What's a daily habit or ritual that keeps you grounded, sane, or sparkly?
Oh, I like breathing. You know this. Breath work,
I
gentle
know it.
breath work, very gentle, loving breath work every single day. I mean, occasionally I miss a day, and that's fine too. Like, I also like to
Mhm.
meditate, just again, gentle, no, very little, like, there are no rules to any of it. I had to
Mhm.
take rules
Mhm.
away long ago because I was
Yeah.
living by so many rules that I had been imposed upon me, but I had imposed upon myself. So a lot of my self-discovery and path to self-love has been letting go of rules.
Mhm.
Like, one of the questions you had, and maybe you're about to ask me, but I'm going to just go into it, was like, do you have any guilty pleasures? And I was like, no, because I don't feel guilty about my pleasures.
Yeah.
I I really don't. I like I am more excited. I'm just excited to explore my pleasure, actually.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can't get in touch with it as much as I want to, but it's more
Mm.
about an exploration of that,
Mm.
and, um
I really love that. I love that you have released guilt because it carries with it. It's so loaded. Um, the idea of guilty pleasures and people kind of talk about it like, "Ooh, oh, and I had a glass of wine." And it's like, well, if you like a glass of wine, drink a fucking glass of wine. Like, why does
Mhm,
it need to be any guilt attached to it?
mhm, and I haven't let go of all my guilt, like,
Yeah,
of
no.
course I haven't, I'm human, like,
Yeah,
and if
yeah.
you feel guilty about it, why? Like,
Mm,
again, curiosity. I couldn't be in touch with curiosity for a long time because
mm,
I didn't find it accessible because I was in so much pain and so much suffering, and I felt so stuck, and I felt like I didn't have choices, and I couldn't get curious. People would be like, "Just get curious," and I was basically like, "Fuck you!" Like,
mm,
I want to get curious. I want to,
mm.
just
But
like,
how do you do that? Yeah, if somebody came to you and said, "I just don't know how to get curious,"
Mhm.
what advice would you give them? What suggestions would you have for that?
I start with the body.
Mhm,
Like, now, I didn't always, again, had an eating disorder, was, like, totally disconnected from my body and my physical experience, utterly, completely disconnected from emotions, like, was raised in a suck it up sort of family environment, but I think that that's the beginning. I think that listening to our internal experience is the beginning, um, you start to listen and you start to listen and remove judgment from that.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to physical sensations and being like so quick, we're so, or automatically we're like, oh, it feels bad. It feels, I don't like this feeling. It feels
Mm-hmm.
bad there. Like what hurts? You know, we only usually are in touch with the like our pain in our bodies. We ignore them until something hurts. But to start practicing listening and removing judgment from just physical sensations is where I would start to get in touch with
Mm-hmm.
curiosity.
Yeah. I love that. I know intention setting is a big part of your life, and we have talked about it before, but what role does that play in your flourishing life?
Yeah, I mean, intentions are huge in my life. They weren't always. Um, Getting into breath work really got me in touch with intentions and the power of intentions. And actually before that into like kind of energy work. Um, just to get in touch with what we want. As women especially, I think it's, we've most of us have been taught from an early age in the generations that like we have grown up in that like you're not supposed to have desires. You're not supposed to have, that's why we're guilty about our pleasure, right? It's like
Yeah.
you're not supposed to have desires, and most of the
Mm.
time you're not supposed to have needs either.
Mm-hmm.
Um
We're the ones making sure everyone else's needs are met.
Exactly. You're always paying attention to everybody else and what they want and what they need and fulfilling that. So when you set intentions about how you want things to go, it felt if in the beginning I think it feels almost like forbidden or like it's like god, like how dare I do that, right? Or like, oh, I could never get that or that's the best case scenario. Like or not even being able to actually get in touch with the best case scenario of what you actually
Mm.
how
Yeah.
you want something to go because we can only go in the beginning like a step further, But just to be like, yeah, if I had a magic wand, how would I intend for this day to go?
Mm-hmm.
How do I, what is my intention for the day? Maybe starting with how we want to show up, but also to be like, how could this day ideally go? How could this year ideally go?
Mm-hmm.
How could my life ideally go?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a huge stretch for people, and it's a huge stretch
Yeah.
for women often. But I
Yeah.
find that if I set consistent intentions, it is the practice of doing that, and it's this expansion and this stretching, and you can begin to see, like, begin to explore and create your
Mm.
an existence.
Yeah.
But it's a practice. It's a beautiful practice.
Mm. So you've got breath work and intention setting and meditation as practices. Are there other things that you would add to that? That
I just like basic self-care things that I just do not allow to like be pushed aside. Like
mm.
I always eat 3 meals a day and lots of snacks and other things. But at least, as you know, as I showed up
Yeah.
here to the beginning of this, being like, I'm just gonna finish my lunch, but I'm always showing up with some eating something. But I know that on busy days, I can easily get to. I have to go pick my kids up kind of around 2:30, and sometimes I'm working, and I get to 2:30, and I'm like, oh my god, what? When am I going to do lunch? I don't do that really because
Mm,
I just know that that's one of my, like, core things.
mm,
It's like, eat,
mm,
sleep. I go to sleep early. I calm down an hour before I go to bed. I turn off technology an hour before I go to bed,
mm,
which means I don't really watch things at night, which I
mhm.
miss out on in some ways, but take care of myself in those
Yeah.
ways. Like, going
Mm,
outside is really big, walking barefoot on the earth,
mhm.
connecting with nature, hugging trees. I'm doing more and more, like, spending time with trees.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying. Um,
How did that start? I'm curious. How did that start, spending more time with trees for you?
it started through talking to another friend,
Mhm.
who is very in touch with the earth, and, yeah, her talking about it, but also just I live in a city, and I'm a
Mhm.
homebody, and I can get really I can be home
Mm.
I mean, my kids go, I take them out every day and we go to the
Yeah.
park. We live next to a big, beautiful park in London. So we are very lucky that we at least have access to a
Mhm.
plot of nature.
Mm.
Um, but I grew up in the forest and I grew up on the ocean. And I always worry that I don't worry, but I want my kids to have access to that.
Yeah.
So we're there already, but it's quite easy for us to get sucked into digital technology and all the things we
Yeah.
need to do, quote unquote, and all the things we need to do for our businesses and or we want to do for our businesses. And yeah, even being outside when I take my kids to the park, just taking my shoes off is really good this time of year.
Mm.
Sitting under a tree or close to a tree because the dogs pee
Mhm.
under the tree. It's like in the park. Yeah.
Yeah, because you spent a bit of time in Santa Fe, which is a completely different climate to where you are now. I'm just wondering how your relationship with nature has changed, like with your geographical location, and whether
Mm.
it's been. I'm always fascinated about geography and how moving might allow people for different relationships with themselves and their surrounds.
Yeah, I find this super interesting because I'm originally from north of Seattle. So I'm
Mhm.
from a climate that's very similar to London.
Mm. Mm.
And I moved lots of places. I moved to Europe and then
Mm.
I moved back to America and then
Yeah.
I moved to, yeah, back to Europe and then I moved back to America. And so I
Mhm.
moved around a lot, but I ended up in New Mexico and then I had my first son in New Mexico because I have three kids. So I had all my kids in New Mexico actually. But I felt quite stuck in New Mexico for quite a while. I had him, I wasn't together with his dad, and but when I first went to New Mexico, I went for a summer for kind of to leave New York City.
Mhm.
I was in New York City, and I didn't expect to stay. And I people find it incredibly beautiful, and they're like blown away by the sky and the desert, and it's like so
Yeah.
foreign and amazing. And I did not feel good there. Like, I didn't
Mm.
see the beauty. I do see the beauty now,
Yeah.
but it's not I felt really unsafe there in my body. I now know I felt really
Yeah.
unsafe there. There wasn't water. I am a person who's like my body knows being next to water and being in an environment where there's moisture in the air and it's incredibly
Mhm.
dry. So I actually felt really not good there for a long time and I had very hard years there. Not all,
Yeah.
I mean, beautiful times too, but difficult
Yeah.
times, some of my most difficult times there.
Mm.
And yeah, and then I moved to London and it felt like my body just went like, oh.
Mhm.
And as much as it's people are like, oh, it's so far away from where you're from. And I'm like, actually, like I see plants, vegetation that I grew up with that I haven't seen
Yeah.
since like I was a kid
Yeah.
they were in my back garden and now they're
Mm.
downstairs in our flat in the garden bed. And
Mm.
it's we whether we're aware of it or not, we're so in touch with nature and climate
Mm.
and and I love the seasons. I love when it rains. People complain about the rain and I love it. And I think I was deprived of it for a long time. So maybe I'll reach a
Yeah.
point where I'm like, where I'm fill up with it, but I don't think so. So I
You have a different attitude towards life now, don't you? Like
yeah,
it's part of that flourishing I feel is that you are perhaps more open to and accepting of what's coming and that it is just weather. Like it's
yeah,
weather and it's nice to have differences in the weather. Maybe I don't know whether I could live in somewhere like Santa Fe where it's the same all the time and no rain. I think it would be tricky.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's high desert where I was, so there's snow in the winter. So there are seasons, but
Mm.
still, I found the sun every day a bit
Mm.
challenging.
Yeah. What's something that you wish people would speak more openly about?
For so long, so growing up with addiction, my mom is a long time alcoholic for
Mhm.
ever. And I saw that for so long, and I still believe like none of the hard things were talked about ever.
Mm.
So it was all smoke and mirrors. It all, for a long time, we still looked really good. Like our family was all pulled together, and my mom was really a perfectionist, and um, it looked like everything was like under control slash like really good.
Yeah.
And I was on the inside of that and always was like, but nothing like is right here. This isn't right, and this isn't good. And I thought a lot of my mom's, illness and difficulty in life came from not being able to be with all the feelings, not
Mm.
being able to be with it all, not being able to be like, no, this doesn't work for me, because that very much was part of her situation. Was like it wasn't working for her, clearly, and she couldn't be with it, and she couldn't make other choices, and for her own reasons. But so for a long time I obsessed over all the hard things. And I was like, we've got to talk about all the hard things. And I'm going to talk about all the hard things obsessively, because I don't want to go down the same like road. And this isn't happening to me. And this could have saved us all, probably on some level, was my subconscious belief, right?
Mm.
So I believe the hard things do need to be talked about.
Yeah.
I also believe now in learning to shift to and pivot to the things that we want, to our intentions, to our desires. It's really easy to get lost in all the hard things too. And I got lost in all the hard things for a long time, and I was totally paralyzed by it
Yeah.
and really depressed, and didn't want to be alive for a period of time, and like really stuck in it and didn't know how to get out. And I think that you know there's a balance between the two, and I hope that there are more and more people teaching and guiding people to be able to be with both,
Mm.
and to be able to get in touch with what we want and desire, and to be able to shift to that, but to also be with how hard things are being a human, and how, much suffering there is for each and every one of us, but that we don't have to stay in that either, that we do have
Mm.
ways that we can pivot to something else. And that all
Mm.
of it's a practice. Like none
Yeah.
of it's like we're not going to do any of it perfectly. And I, I was thinking of going on this podcast, and it was like, I'm going on the like Plucking Flourishing podcast, and I was like, huh. I was like, yeah, I am flourishing, god damn it. But like
Yeah.
for a second I was like, I don't know, am I? Am I not? And that was a big thing, becoming a like life coach, which I hate the term so much, because it comes with all of this smoke and mirrors of like having all your shit together, and like,
Yeah, and maybe it comes with this thing of like, well, you know, do we actually need coaching in it for to live? It's like I don't know.
yeah.
I get it. I understand.
Yeah,
It
just
can
felt so
feel
yucky. Like,
weird.
it was just like,
Yeah.
so
Mm.
now, like, I think a lot of coaches believe they have to look like be like perfect from the outside all the time.
Mm.
And I
Mm.
don't believe that. I think that's not how we connect with people, or how we get in touch with our authenticity and our full
No.
experience, all of that, it's the opposite. But yeah.
Mm. Okay, another question. Um, if you could go back and whisper something to your 30-something self, what would it be? Maybe even 20-something self.
Probably just would have whispered to her like all the time that it was going to be okay, and it was going to get really, really good. Like,
Mm.
it's going to be okay, and it's going to get really, really good, even beyond just being okay. At that time, I just needed someone to tell me it was going to be okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
How important are friendships for you? I'm thinking about gardens and flourishing, and that plants flourish side by side. That's kind of
Mhm.
where I'm going in my thoughts. I thought I'd better explain that because it might have come out of the blue, but that's what I was kind of thinking about, a garden and flowers blooming. How important is
Yeah.
friendship?
Well, I'm so aware in my own development in life of my and all of our need to be surrounded by people we actually can be ourselves around. Um, and to be able to have, again, full experiences.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm a person who also needs a lot of solitude. I mean, you know this. I
Mhm.
need a lot of time to myself. I do not flourish in relationships where I feel like I have to do them a certain way or there's an
Mhm.
expectation of me to be a certain way. I'm just not in those relationships at this point in my life, to be honest, which feels like a huge win because for a long time I was in many relationships where I felt like I had to, if I don't call so and so back immediately,
Mm.
if I don't go to every party that they have, if I don't like, call early and ask if I can help, if I don't do this or this or that, we're not going to be friends anymore. My fear of being like rejected. And honestly, I just don't have those relationships anymore,
Mm.
which is such fucking liberation because it takes so much energy to do that.
Mm.
Um, and so I only have relationships where it's like people know that about me.
Mhm.
And I've lost relationships through that too. Like,
Mm.
becoming more and more myself. I've lost people who needed something else. And it's not
Mhm.
that they're wrong and I'm right. We can have our own needs. And I
Mhm.
had some friendships where they needed someone to call every time they
Mhm.
had a party to ask if they could, help out and show up to all the things and call right back and that's their needs and that's
Yeah.
okay too.
Mm. And they might find somebody who that's a need for them, that they need someone to call them and help, but it's not you.
But it's not going to be me. It
Yeah,
will
yeah,
be if I have the time and space and it
yeah,
works for me on that day, but it's not going to be every single time and it's
yeah.
just the way I now live. And I have small kids, so there are lots of like expectations and like social things and
Mhm.
that. But my
Yeah.
friendships are incredibly important to go back. And also
Mm.
my groups, like I shifted into coaching, breath work, all of that like a couple years ago.
Mhm.
And so not, it's still quite fresh and new, but within that in the beginning of it, it came in a really interesting way, but it also came from I was in a group for the first time where I felt like I could talk about the things I was really interested in.
Mm.
Talk about spirituality and energy and I felt like for a long time that I couldn't talk about that outside of that space.
Mhm.
And now I'm more and more comfortable talking about all
Mm.
the things that interest me, true, like, authentically and that are feel really true to me,
Mm.
openly in any space with
Mm.
whoever, like, don't care who it is.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I find that, and I found in those times having those circles of people where I could really be myself was always super important.
Mm. Is that part of the journey of aging, do you think? Of
Yeah,
recognizing.
absolutely. Absolutely. I am delighted to be aging.
Yeah.
I am I feel grateful to be aging. I feel
Mm.
like I just am getting to know myself better and better and giving less fucks about like,
Mhm.
and it is so liberating and it's something I
Mhm.
wanted for so long. In
Mhm.
my 20s I wanted that. But I didn't have access to it
Mhm.
and it doesn't
Did
mean
you have Yeah, did you have the role models? Like, 'cause I'm wondering, yeah, if it comes with, if you have people around you who are older, who are also giving you a flux, that maybe you see that that's an option.
I didn't really because I was really disconnected from my family.
Yeah.
So we and disconnected from my mom, and so there was a lot of also having to in order to have, like, role models, women who are older, I didn't feel safe having those relationships so much
Mm.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Now I do, but more and more, although I'm, like, thinking to myself, I'm like, "Do I have those relationships? Maybe, maybe not." I've always been also, Lisa, like, I've
Mm.
always kind of, like, flown my own course. I've always,
Mhm.
like, done my own thing. I've always been super independent and moved a lot and, shifted those, like, kind of my social circles a lot. So,
Mm.
I didn't really have those role models,
Mm.
but I knew it was possible, and I did see it in other women, of course. And I'd
Yeah.
always notice it, even if they weren't, I mean, it didn't matter their age. Whenever I
No.
met someone who just didn't give a shit, it's like,
Mm.
oh my God, I want what she's having.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't have to be someone in your close circle. It can even be a, an actor or a writer or a, journalist or something.
yeah, and of course, I kind of had those people, but
Mm. Curate your own
yeah,
with amazing people. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So what are you unlearning?
Oh, all of it. I mean,
Mhm.
aren't we? Like, I'm learning all of it. Learning all of it. I'm just, and with like, I feel so grateful to, feel like breathwork found me really. And I feel so grateful for that, like deeply,
Mhm.
deeply, deeply grateful because I feel like I have this tool that I didn't have before that I was looking for so long, where I really can unlearn it all. I can like
Mm.
peel back the layers of the onion, and I know
Yeah.
how to do that with a tool that works for me. Doesn't, I
Mm.
mean, everyone has their own things that work for them. I don't think it's like, well, I do kind of think it's the answer for everyone, but I don't really. I don't really believe that.
Breathe
Uh,
through your nose, people. Don't want to be a mouth breather. Breathe through your nose.
uh, so yeah, I think everything. I'm so curious, again, curious about like what subconscious thing I can like release
Yeah.
next.
Yeah.
What I'm not aware of that I am holding on to,
Mhm.
and to become aware of those things. I mean, I've also heard that I've like heard from some of the breath workers who've done it for like since the beginning for like their entire lives and are now in like their 70s, that they're still learning things about themselves and
Yeah.
and taking layers off, and so like
There's no end point.
I I I'm committed.
Mm.
So unlearning it all.
Mm. How does that filter down being a parent for you? What does it look like and feel like for you?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, being a parent is the fucking most triggering thing in the whole wide world
Mhm.
and in my life. And being also being a partner is the
Mhm.
other most triggering thing.
Yeah,
So
there's
I'm
that
deep in
too.
both of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just like in both those things,
Mm.
hardcore. And yeah, I mean, taking layers off is like vital in terms of
Mm.
my parenting experience and how
Mm.
I relate to my kids. And there certainly is no perfect parent or
Mm.
perfect person or perfect partner, and I don't expect to be, and that is not my goal. I think really my goal is like, how do I connect with my kids the most
Yeah.
deeply, in the most deep way I can?
Yeah.
How do I understand them,
Mhm.
you know, to the best of my ability? How do I continue to have close relationships with them
Mm.
for my life?
Yeah.
How do I make them trust, or allow them to trust themselves in the way that they were born doing? Like we're all born with a much closer connection to like
Mm.
source, or
Mm.
creativity and love and
Yeah.
connection and all those things we know how to do. So like,
Mm.
how do you send your kid to school and then like put them out in society and like like teach them to get through trusting
Yeah.
themselves and
Yeah.
being creative and being able to love themselves? I don't know the answers to that, but I try every day.
Yeah.
With my kids too, just because I have an almost 13-year-old and I have she just turned 7, my daughter, and then I have a 5-year-old. And to also like not look back on things I didn't know and be like, oh God, I already fucked them up. That's really easy to do. To look back and be like, God, if only I had done this, and if only I'd known this then, and oh, I could have done that, and that wasn't perfect, and that wasn't. So that's part of the like parenting thing for me now too, is just like an acceptance, a love for
Mm.
myself. love for myself,
Mm.
like through the whole spectrum of my life, like a love for myself then, knowing what I knew then, a love for myself when I felt stuck in my life, a love for myself when I was a kid, a love for myself now, like all of it, you know. But those things can be challenging too. I
Mm.
do look at my kids sometimes and I'm like, oh God, I taught you that. Oh God, don't believe that.
Yeah, I have a little bit of that sometimes, particularly as my kids are adults, and I'm like, I've already scarred them. It's too late. They're going to have all of this trauma. They're holding on to everything. It's like I've completely ruined their lives with all the decisions that I've made, and you can just go down this giant rabbit hole. And I have to remind myself that I did my best at the time with the tools that I had and the knowledge that I had at the time, just like my parents did. They did their best with
Exactly.
the tools and knowledge they
And
had.
we're all and exactly, and we're all still alive. Like
Yeah.
it's not like one and done sort of a thing either, you know? We
Mhm.
I mean, gratefully are still here and we get to work on those relationships and they're malleable and we get to continue the journey of being mothers
Mm.
because I will be a mother for my lifetime. And yeah, that's a beautiful thing too. And challenging. It's challenging to be a parent.
Yeah, it really is. And it does lessen, to be honest.
Really is.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think you're in the thick of it right now. I'd like to
Mhm.
say that. Um,
Mm.
your ingredients to a flourishing life. I would love to hear that, Whit.
Ooh, my ingredients to a flourishing life. Like,
Mm.
well, that's such an interesting question. Just yourself.
Mm.
The ingredient. Like,
Mm.
and then for me, it's breath work. But again, it's like for someone
Mm.
else, it could be something else.
Yeah. Maybe
You
something that
know,
you
it's,
deeply connect with, that kind of gives you presence and whatever that may be.
yeah, and
Mm.
allows you to get in touch with, that
Mhm.
allows you to get closer and closer to who you
Mm.
truly are.
Yeah.
That's that's it for me.
Mm.
Because also the more you do that, the less you need in your life, the
Mhm.
less like, you know, you look around and you start to like really understand. Like I have always, well, for a long time in my own healing journey, like, you know, been into like yoga and Zen Buddhism and lots
Mhm.
of other things. And um I am now at the place where I'm beginning to understand the basic concepts, you
Mhm.
know? Like, but like really understand them,
Mm.
like on a body level.
Yeah.
Like I understood them in my mind, but I was
Mhm.
always like, well, that would be nice. But to the closer and closer I get to who I truly am, the more and more I listen to myself, the more love I have for myself, the more compassion I have for myself. Like the
Mm.
more I can cultivate that, the less I need in my life, the more
Yeah.
present I am, the more I can look at just how things are now and be in love with them, like
Mhm.
truly. I mean, it sounds so cheesy, and it was like what so many people said for so long that I've like heard them say that, and I'm like, again, when I was suffering and having a really hard time in my life and had no real access to that and wanted it so desperately, I was like, fuck you. Of course I want to look around and be like, I love all this and I'm feel present and connected and lucky and grateful and yeah, I want to do all that. Like, you know, we all want to do all that, but
Mm.
it's not always accessible. And
Mm.
it wasn't accessible for me for a long time, even though I knew those things. So you
Mm.
can know them and then you can like know them.
Mm.
And so for me, yeah, gentle breath work has gotten me in touch with like
Mhm.
myself, my truth, all of it.
Yeah.
Um,
No mud, no lotus, right? You kind of need the fertilizer
mhm.
to make a flourishing garden. Thank you so much for today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here talking to me again. I always enjoy talking to you, Whit, so thank you for sharing your story and your flourishing, amazing journey that has gotten you to this point, sitting in London, chatting to me. So thank you. I appreciate you and your time.
Thank you, Lisa. I was very excited to come on today.
It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure having you. And I look forward to chatting again.
Many more times.
Thanks for tuning in to the Flourishing podcast, where we say a bold yes to growth, mess, and midlife magic. If you love this chat, make sure you're subscribed, share it with your fellow queenagers, and perhaps leave a little love in the form of a review. It helps more fabulous humans find me. Until next time, keep flourishing your way, no fluff, no filters.